everyone. Welcome back, or welcome if you're new. My name is Erin, and I am fascinated by all things cults, true crime, and unique spiritual practices. I post 3 videos every single week on one of these topics, and this is the first week I've done a third video. And this is a brand new series I'm starting. I am so excited about it. Today, I am sharing real life cult survivor stories. Now, most of these today I've sourced online, but if you have your own real survivor story, whether you were in a cult or a DV relationship, or if you have a story that you think will educate people and also help you get some things off your chest, please feel free to email me your written story to letfresherin@gmail.com. I have a couple stories in my inbox, but it looks like those are going to be interviews. So if you've emailed me and I haven't gotten back to you, I had a very challenging full-time job that I recently left. Yay! Which is why I have more time to post some content for y'all. But if I haven't gotten back to you, that is why I am still playing catch up a little bit. So without further ado, let's jump into these survivor stories. These are all people who have survived and escaped Scientology. So without further ado, let's jump in. Most of these were found on Reddit. This Redditor writes, I was born and raised in the cult of Scientology. After coming out publicly a few weeks ago, the cult is now threatening me with disconnection unless I agree to stop talking about it online. But I'm not afraid of them. I'm finally free to express myself, and I will continue to do so. Ask me anything. First question. Is there anything good at all inside Scientology? Absolutely, this person says. The community and connection, the belief in having a higher purpose, and some of the auditing, especially the lower level stuff, was beneficial to me. It has helped many other people. Scientology is a horrible human trafficking cult, but Scientologists, by and large, are good people that genuinely want to help. The best part of Scientology are the people. The worst part is what some of those people do to the others. And there's always this misconception about cults, right? How do people get in? How does someone allow themselves to be brainwashed? I've said this in so many videos, but cults never look like a cult when you first get involved. I mean, yes, now, majority of us know how you get sucked into Scientology, right? You're walking down the street, you're near a Scientology building, and there's a recruiter out on the street asking if you want to take a personality test, and almost every test is rigged to make you need to be audited, or basically get this like pseudoscience version of a therapy session and get some electric currents through your body on these cans that allegedly help determine how many thetans are throughout your body, or like other spirits are affecting your body. It's a ton of woo-woo stuff. I will link my Scientology deep dive right here if you guys want to jump into more of a deep dive. But Jenna Miscavige is sharing her true story. If you don't know, she is the niece of the leader of the cult, David Miscavige. He's the guy who took over after L. Ron Hubbard died. And if you want me to react to some of her videos, I would love to do that. So if that's something you're interested in, please let me know. But all of that to say, yes, a cult never actually looks like a cult at the beginning. It looks like community. It looks like self-care. It looks like self-help. It looks like something pure and good. Is the abuse in the Sea Org still going on to this very day? Yes, it is. These people work 100 plus hours a week for less than 50 a week. They have no access to cell phones or the internet. Many never see their families, even their children. The level of control and coercion that Sea Org members are subjected to is truly hard to illustrate. They're slaves, and I don't use that word lightly. If you want to learn more about the Sea Org, I did another deep dive on that I will link here for you. Does the Church of Scientology do anything to people who stop attending? Say they don't officially say they want to separate, but simply attend less and less often and just kind of fade out. For the most part, as long as you never publicly speak out or announce that you've left, you'll be left more or less alone as far as retaliation. People that fade out are often referred to as being disaffected. There are about 20,000 Scientologists in the entire world. About 10,000 of those are staff or Sea Org members. Of the other 10,000, I would easily estimate that half would fall into that category. There are likely no more than 4,000 to 5,000 active Scientology parishioners in the world, which is a lot less than I believe what Leah Remini said there was when her series was out. So what this person is saying is that of the around 20,000 Scientologists in the world, 10,000 of those are still active, but the other 10,000 are just like silently fading away from the group, luckily. Has being a Scientologist ever helped members' career? Yes, it's networking culture, but unfortunately, that's also a part of the control system. Your career becomes dependent upon keeping that job in the Scientologist owned company you work for. If you fall into bad standing with the church, you're liable to lose everything, which, in case you didn't know, is financial abuse and control. It's a tactic that many, if not all, cults use to try to keep you there. Because if you have no financial stability, then it really diminishes your means and your ability to escape. Because how are you going to make money? How are you going to live? How are you going to sustain your life? How are you going to provide for your family if you have one? Could you explain what the ultimate goal or promised state of being is for a dedicated Scientologist? The ultimate goal is what is called total freedom in Scientology. There is this chart called the Bridge to Total Freedom that lays out all the courses you have to do in Scientology. Lower on the chart are the lower levels, and higher on the chart are the upper levels. The goal is to go up the levels until you reach the top. The chart goes up to OT 15, but the highest level that is currently released is OT 8. So the other levels were just never released, probably because L. Ron Hubbard died before they could be. And Hubbard died, Hubbard died before he could even finish OT 9 and 10. So the promised goal is total spiritual freedom, but what actually gets delivered is basically half of nothing and 100% BS. Agreed. How is the narrative from inside in terms of how the founder is presented or viewed? Is he seen more as a scientist, a philosopher, or a spiritual leader? All three. He's seen as mankind's greatest friend. Is he a dog? While he's not worshipped as a god, he is basically the same category for all intents and purposes. Many people talk about recruitment tactics in high control groups or even amongst celebrities. From your experience, what does that process actually look and feel like in Scientology? Does the initial welcome and support change once a person is more deeply involved? This is a really good question. At the lower levels, a person coming in might pay for a $50 course, then a $150 course, then maybe a $300 course. If they go that far, the next course is $2,500 and will take you about 2 years of weekly attendance to complete. And then it goes up from there. The next course is also $2,500, and then it jumps to tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands. The whole bridge costs anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million to complete. Once you've committed the tens of thousands, you are treated very differently. Once you have anything to lose is when the abuse starts. But I was born in Scientology. I was treated as a high-level member from the start. In the beginning, there's a lot of love bombing. By the end, you may end up signing a billion-year contract. So just 1 minute on this. It's very interesting how very affordable at the beginning the courses are. $50 for a course, $2,500 over the course of 2 years. Is there a payment plan? Great. Am I improving myself? Great. But by then you're already sucked in, so it's easier for them to sell you that like high ticket item of like, okay, this next course, you're going to elevate. Aren't you feeling good? Don't you want to invest in yourself? Don't you want to do better? Don't you want to feel better? And you slowly climb up this ladder while you're pouring your entire fortune into Scientology. And I'm sure you're treated better the more you've poured into. But I guess this person is saying that once you have more to lose, which if you put in six figures into your self-help, there's that sunk cost fallacy that kind of comes into play where you're like, oh, I'm not really happy here. I'm seeing red flags, but like, God, I've 100K into this. I've put my entire salary for 5 years into this. I may as well continue. I have seen benefits, and you do form this community, and that makes it even harder to leave. Something I say a lot when I criticize groups like Twin Flame Universe or another group that has these high ticket courses, I'm like, if you had anything to truly offer and you had something that people wanted to listen to, you would just post online and people would come to it, and you wouldn't have to like scam your followers to buy courses, right? But in this scenario, they're kind of like dangling the carrot. It's not that expensive. It's not too expensive. It's expensive, but you are going to grow and you'll be one of the best Scientologists ever. It's just like, oh my gosh. And I believe if you're in the Sea Org, you can go up the bridge without paying for it. I might be wrong on that detail, but I think it's like one of the perks of being a part of the Sea Org is you get to move up the bridge for free, essentially, if you just, work 100 hours every single week and you devote your entire life to us and you sign a billion-year contract with us. So that, on top of everything else, is going to make it harder for people to leave. Scientology is known for having high-profile celebrity members. From the inside, is there a different set of rules or different experience for famous members compared to the average parishioner? Absolutely. I knew Kirstie Alley in the cult. She was a problematic figure, to be sure, but an absolutely wonderful person in person. She basically walked around there like she owned the place and made everyone around her feel the same way. She definitely got special treatment. Fun fact, I'm just going to say allegedly here, but I am in the film and television industry. Not the job that I recently left, but I'm pursuing acting. And I have a friend who did a movie with Kirstie Alley, and they said that Kirstie Alley literally had probably like 4 people who all were dressed the same. And I was like, yeah, those were probably her Scientology handlers, so people wouldn't go up and talk to her. And she was kind of odd. She was really, really nice, but didn't like socialize too much with them, and was kind of still kept like away from the rest of the cast. And I mean, when you're on a set, you have so much time to kill that you are bonding with your cast members. You're waiting for them to fix the lights and change the camera angles and, move set pieces and check for continuity and watching playback. So sometimes you have a lot of time to kind of just sit around or read your lines. So a lot of the time you're bonding with your other cast members. But when it came to Kirstie Alley, her handlers didn't really let her do that. Again, heard she was great, but the Scientologists literally followed her to set and basically flanked her on both sides. She wasn't able to really talk to people. Plus, I recently heard that Tom Cruise and Ana de Armas, I think is her name. Almas? I don't know. I think he tried to introduce her to Scientology because they were dating, and I think that was once again what broke them up. So good for you, Anna. Now, for the average non-famous member, what did a typical everyday life look like? Is it extremely regimented? Could you describe the balance between work, study, personal time, religious cult expectations of activities, and the financial pressure? I'm interested in how the cult's culture permeates the most ordinary aspects of living. The answer, it depends. There are 3 levels of commitment to Scientology: public, staff, and Sea Org. Public members are just anyone who's ever done services and doesn't work for the cult as a staff or Sea Org member. Their level of balance between everything varies from people that only ever attend the major international events to people that spend half or all of their time trying to go up the bridge. Staff members sign 2.5 or 5-year contracts to work for a local organization. They work either a day or night shift, 40 hours a week. Most are making less than $25 a week in staff pay, and then they have to work other jobs to survive. That is fucking crazy. That's crazy. You're charging these people 6 figures to go up your stupid fucking bridge. What? Sea Org members sign a 1 billion year contract. They pledge their entire life and existence, essentially, to working for Scientology. These people live and work on Scientology Sea Org bases of operation and spend 100% of their time devoted to Scientology. It's also a snitch culture. It is a requirement to report on other members in Scientology. The culture permeates all aspects of living. The reason they do this is because they want to instill this feeling of fear among everyone in the cult. Because it's not just, oh, I'm going to confide in my friend and share with them the doubts I have about the leader. No. You would never, ever, ever speak up or disobey the leader or ever express your doubt because that person might snitch on you, because that's the expectation. So it's not like a kid at school and doesn't want the teacher to see them passing a note, because the person you pass the note to might bring the note straight to the teacher and say that person is cheating on their test. That person passed me a note. And that might be your friend. So they never ever have the opportunity to speak up. That's why there are so many family members completely broken apart, because they can't even tell their spouses because your spouse might tell on you and run it up the chain. It's a heartbreaking dynamic. So what were answers the cult wasn't giving you? OP answers. So there's this thing called the Ideal Org program that David Miscavige came up with. He basically sold all Scientologists on the idea that the reason their local organization was doing so poorly is that they didn't have a nice building, that they weren't representing Scientology well. Oh, so it's just blame your followers and your building, not you being a disgusting creep. Okay. The solution was to raise tens of millions of dollars from the local public to purchase shiny new buildings and renovate them. When a local Scientology organization gets one of these buildings, it's referred to as an ideal org. Before it goes ideal, it's just called an org, short for organization. My local org was in the process of raising funds to go ideal. We had to raise $25 million out of a group of maybe 300 people. Of those, only maybe 25 could actually afford to make sizable donations. So the church resorted to using credit card and bank fraud schemes to get loans for donations. I'm just going to say, for legal purposes, everything in this video is alleged. Thank you. This is a whole other story in itself, but at some point I found out how much the steel for the entire project cost. Because I had this hard number, I started doing the math and realized that the entire project should cost no more than $9 million at the highest end. I worked out a formula to calculate the estimated cost and started applying it to the other ideal orgs I knew about. I realized that in every single case, they were fundraising 2/3 more than what was actually needed. I started asking some hard questions about this and got no answers. This is just one of the things that eventually led me to looking online and eventually leaving. That's wild. I never heard of that. I mean, we've seen it before. Cults never get shut down because they're a cult. It's not illegal to have a cult. People are allowed to pay money to whatever religion, organization, whatever it might be. Humans are allowed to do that. But the fact that there's potential proof of a loan scam or bank fraud, loan fraud, that could take Scientology down to the depths of hell. And let's hope it happens, shall we? Besides realizing it was a cult, why did you leave? I was a fanatical believer, but had always been kind of at odds with the organization itself. I could take a lot of abuse and certainly did, but it really bothered me when the people I cared about were being harmed. During COVID, a friend of mine was locked in a room and poisoned for months. Among many other abusive things, I only found out about it due to some unusual circumstances. Even if I hadn't fully woken up and done the work to deconstruct, there was no way I could remain a member of an organization that was doing anything like what was done to my friend. So the text locked in a room and poisoned was clearly linking to something else. So I clicked on it and this is what I found. So OP posted this in the Scientology Reddit. And they write, the order given to all PAC-based Sea Org members. If you're a lurking Scientologist, here's proof that management is lying to you. To this day, Scientology claims this order doesn't exist. Good luck keeping that lie going now. So let's read what this says. This is August 5th, 2021, regarding quarantine. Dear staff member, in alignment with current base protocols, in order for you to be able to be released from quarantine, you will need to do the vaccination for the COVID-19 virus. All base staff members, due to the fact that we are so closely connected with each other, are required to do this. Man, the way this is written is rough. Okay. A fact sheet is attached so that you have the information on this vaccine as well as what it contains and any other questions you may have. We have thoroughly researched this vaccine to ensure that it's safe. At the recommendation of doctors, we are doing this to keep our staff members safe. As we have now opened the base up, this is a factor to ensure that our staff are safe. Thus, we no longer permit staff who are in contact with public to be in contact with others who are directly in communication with these staff. Please contact the DMLO to arrange for transport to be able to do this vaccine and or get any questions answered when you get your temperature check in the morning. You can do this while you're in quarantine. You'll be safely transported to and from the location where you will receive this. Okay, so it's basically a mandatory vaccination, which a lot of companies did. I mean, even in the film and TV industry, you couldn't work unless you got vaccinated. But I'm curious if it's like the actual vaccine. I guess I'm just skeptical, like, was it the real vaccine? And also the fact that they won't let you go do it on your own and just show proof. Like when I went to set sometimes, I would have to like show you had like a creepy little vaccination card that showed your like last dose and it was signed by the doctor. I think everybody remembers that. And we would have to like show proof of our vaccine and our dosages and have a COVID-19 test. So, and for some people, if they were doing like a larger project, they would be like quarantining so that they could work during that time. So the OP goes on to explain and give us more context. I was sent this order by someone who, at the time, I believed to be a friend. His experience and the way he was treated was one of many things that pushed me to eventually realize I was in a cult. When he sent it, he did so as insurance, which were his words, against what Scientology might do to him. When he received this order, he had been in solitary confinement or quarantine for over 3 months. He was told he wouldn't ever be allowed to leave quarantine unless he was vaccinated. But let me explain how we got here. So I'm just kind of like inferring based off of context clues that Scientology denies forcing anybody to take a vaccination. But this is proof that everybody was required to take the vaccination, especially if they were going to be on base. The fact that Scientology is making people quarantine basically in solitary confinement for months feels torturous to me. Like, I think a lot of us had our little like bubbles of community. There's a cul-de-sac close to where I live and people would go and just like hang out in lawn chairs and drink and like play music and play games outside far away from each other during COVID so that there was some amount of social experience during that time. I lived with 3 roommates and we were predominantly quarantining all together, right? Or people would have neighbors and we would be like, well, we're only staying in our own homes and then seeing each other. We're the only human beings we are interacting with. It's our little like, tiny little bubble that we're in. And I would imagine like, okay, well, if you're in a cult, you might not need to like be in solitary confinement for 3 months. They're not even allowed to go see their family. Like, what is going on? When COVID first hit, management produced a series of videos. In them, they made some pretty wild claims. Their main purpose was to showcase the use of Decon 7. It was basically just a voiceover extolling the benefits of the chemical solution, played over B-roll of fogging machines and giant hoses used to disinfect the streets. But where they really went nuts was the claims that they made about COVID itself. The video, in classic Scientology style, showed 3D renderings of COVID living on and reproducing on surfaces. One shot zoomed in on a doorknob and showed little viral particles multiplying and spreading. It was all done to justify the use of Decon 7, despite the fact that the CDC had already said that COVID does not live on or multiply on surfaces, and it is in fact airborne. Scientology continued to run on this false premise. No surprise there. What is surprising is just how poorly it all went and how incorrectly they used this industrial strength disinfectant. So I'm kind of coming to the conclusion that Decon 7 was considered to be Scientology's version of the vaccine. We're about to get some more information. I had to look up what Decon 7 was. It's literally a disinfectant and sanitizer. It specializes in delivering powerful decontamination and disinfection products that effectively eliminate harmful pathogens. It can neutralize up to 99.9999% of viruses, bacteria, mold, and other harmful contaminants on surfaces. It says that when applied to HVAC equipment surfaces, D7 kills up to 99.99999% of harmful pathogens. The side effects can be skin, eye, and respiratory irritation from contact or inhalation. Ingestion can cause severe gastrointestinal irritation and damage. The severity depends on the concentration and duration of exposure. So you should only be using it on surfaces. But I think we're going to be learning just how they used it. There's nothing inherently bad about Decon 7 itself. It's a good product, but like any chemical, it must be used correctly. Scientology did the exact opposite of that. Everything was covered in the stuff. They had floor mats sprayed with it, which everyone entering a building was required to first stand on. Public were told to spray their cars, homes, and even groceries with the chemical, which was handed out by the org itself. Every single org, despite being shut down, was staffed with several people whose sole job was to disinfect with Decon 7 on a daily basis. Think about how absurd this is. Buildings were being sprayed, wiped, and fogged with a chemical that, while great at disinfecting surfaces, had no real effect on the transmission of the virus. Not only that, but the orgs were closed. No public were in the building. The only people with access were those tasked with cleaning. So who was it being disinfected for? Who was this helping? The answer is no one. It would make sense to clean the buildings before reopening, but daily cleaning to the point where the woodwork and metalwork were being ruined served no purpose other than to satisfy the very big ego of a very small man, a man obsessed with image over safety. Public and staff were expected to use the same protocols in their homes, and teams of yellow-clad volunteer ministers were even sent to people's homes to fog and disinfect. Management issued a statement saying that if anyone got sick with anything, it was because they had violated the protocols and therefore were deserving of punishment. Staff that contracted COVID-19 were, I think there's a typo here, but he says staff that contracted COVID-19 were, I'm guessing, punished on this basis. People who got sick were given the same treatment. Even their own faulty tech was thrown out the window. Hubbard claimed that a PTS condition was the exclusive cause of illness, but in a brilliantly stupid display of how readily DM will change fundamental policy, the new Y became not enough Decon 7. That's insane. When the orgs opened back up, the cleaning and spraying and fogging continued. Every single room was fogged with D7 multiple times a day. Per the documentation found on the website of the company which manufactures the product, any rooms fogged needed to be vacated for many hours before it was safe to return, and anyone using the machines was required to wear protective gear and shower immediately afterward. It's quite clear that this is not something you should be exposed to or have contact with. Scientology ignored all of the safety instructions and instead sent staff and public back into rooms that had been fogged only moments earlier. People were being very negatively affected by this. I know of several staff who had to stop coming in due to bad reactions. One staff member began having seizures as a result. Others were passing out at their desks or falling down in the course room. People were dropping like flies. Not only that, but it didn't work at stopping the spread spread of COVID one single bit. And anyone who got sick was attacked and hit with Scientology justice. It was the perfect storm of bullshit, and management just kept doubling down on its use. Wow. The person who sent me this order was a Sea Org member, posted at a Class V org as the estate's manager. From his position, he was responsible for ensuring all the COVID protocols happened daily. He lived in the org for months, fogging, wiping, and spraying on a daily basis for no one but himself and the 2 Class V staff also tasked with it. He labored alone in this, as his wife, who was also a network, had been recalled for management training. She was away from him at PAC the entire time. Sea Org members that work as networks in Class V orgs often have access to things that those at a base simply do not. He had a phone, access to the internet, and other devices that at a base would be strictly prohibited. Our friendship was unusual in that a Sea Org member is not supposed to fraternize with a public member. Wow, so I didn't know that. Sea Org members can't talk to other members? That's insane. Probably because they don't want a public member to be like, oh my God, you're being abused. Maybe I don't want to be in this cult. This is kind of scary. But we'd been on staff and worked closely together for years. As a result, we spoke often. He and I both expressed disagreements with how things were being done. I was concerned about the long-term effects of his daily exposure to the chemicals. He was made to fog every room multiple times a day. Again, D7 is not inherently harmful when used correctly, but that isn't what was happening. Many months after this, he was also recalled to the base for what he was told was executive training. They said he would get some training and that he'd be given a promotion to work alongside his wife, but that was a lie. But neither of us knew that at the time. In another case of unusual circumstances, when he arrived, he didn't relinquish all of his devices. I expected not to hear from him again. I was surprised when he contacted me via WhatsApp. He had kept his iPad, which had cell service, allowing us to stay in touch. What happened to him after arriving was truly horrific, and a perfect illustration of how destructive and cruel Scientology is towards its own members, especially those in the Sea Org. He arrived at the base free of COVID, but with a different issue. He was having major indigestion trouble and had been told by some quack Scientology chiropractor that it was parasites. Instead of taking him to a real doctor, they put him in quarantine. This meant being in total isolation. He was confined to a single room. For the first 3 days, he wasn't even brought water and had to drink LA tap water just to survive. 3 times a day, he was made to stand in the hallway while his room was fogged. Then he was immediately returned to it. For reference, the instructions for the product state that no one may enter a space that had been fogged for at least 6 to 8 hours. So literally, Scientology is making him sick and then is mad that he's sick and then thinks that the thing that made him sick is sanitizing him. Oh my God. Despite passing his daily COVID test, he was confined indefinitely, simply for having indigestion. If this all sounds pretty insane, then you're starting to get the picture. Not only was he imprisoned, he was being poisoned. I was his only connection to the outside world. He couldn't talk or interact with anyone else on the base. He was begging to be released, but so long as his symptoms remained, he was deemed a risk to the base and confined. After 3 months of this, he received his order. Now, it shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone that Scientologists in general are pretty anti-vax. At the time, I was in the same camp of belief. I was also in a cult. Neither label applies to me today, but what was done to him is clearly a violation of basic human rights. He sent me an email with this document, the one that we featured earlier, and stated quite explicitly that this was insurance against what might happen to him. He knew this was a human rights violation. His courage in that moment is what makes this possible. As far as I know, this is the only copy of the order to ever leak. His unusual circumstances are what permitted it. If they had known he had an iPad and was talking with someone on the outside, things would have gone very differently. When he refused the vaccine, he was told that he would continue to be held in confinement until he changed his mind. His wife and anyone else who refused were also placed in confinement. Most broke after a few weeks. For him, he gave in after a month, and after his wife acquiesced. He told me that this was the final straw. He took the vaccine to get out of the imprisonment, but said that he only did so in order to begin his leaving the Sea Org routing form. I didn't hear from him for a long time. When I finally did, The story only became more horrifying. As soon as he and his wife got out of confinement, they found out that their training and promotion was all a lie. This was the intention from the beginning. He was never getting a promotion, and neither was she. They were being used. And the only reason it hadn't happened sooner was COVID. He was told they lied to him because they knew if he was told the truth, he'd want to leave. Despite all the brainwashing, this was a bridge too far. He started his routing form out of the Sea Org alongside his wife. It took 9 months to complete. Per him, he completely broke down on several occasions and was pressured and harassed on a daily basis. They lost his routing form twice, which meant he had to start all over from scratch. He was made to do hard physical labor the entire time and treated, in his words, like he had betrayed the entire universe. Despite all of this, he still believed in Hubbard and the tech. So when he left, he was still very much a Scientologist, and he remains a Scientologist to this day. Oh my gosh, they could have killed you. They almost killed you. This is what I'm saying. It's just the deconstruction can feel so daunting and difficult when the people who are supposed to make you a better person are actually harming you. I've had this order for some time. I wish that I had had the courage to release it sooner. I did not. It's taken me a long time to get to the place I am now. Without the help that the SPTV Foundation has provided, I don't think I'd be here, both in writing this and in general. If anyone out there wonders what the foundation is doing with the funds it receives, let me state explicitly that it is saving lives. The help I am being provided is saving mine. This must be the suppressive, because I think SP is suppressive person in Scientology, so this must be a foundation that helps get SPs further out and protected from the group or the cult. I held on to this partly to protect myself against the cult and partly to protect the person who gave this to me, as he will undoubtedly suffer consequences from this being released. I protected him from the cult and took his side when he needed it. When he had the opportunity to do the same for me, he didn't. He betrayed my trust and our friendship and came to me acting as an agent of Scientology. He was tasked with getting me to a base under the false premise of just having a conversation with the secret knowledge that I was to be calm Eve. That must be a Scientology term. This is the second time I've seen it. I don't exactly know what it means. If you do know what it means, please share that down in the comments below. I did try to look it up and I didn't find anything online. I'm guessing that it's calm. It's probably some type of communication to lure somebody back into the group. It's kind of what I'm gleaning from some of these context clues. But luckily, the writer did not go. But they say I still felt a need to protect him from the damage the cult was doing for a long time. I held out hope that he would see the truth of it as I had. He did not. Oh, that's heartbreaking. To others who might still consider themselves under the radar, I am not a Scientologist in any sense of the word, and I haven't been for a while. But I still felt a need to protect those people I cared about, still stuck within the cult. I understand that, but this is a losing battle. I'm done protecting and trying to help people who wouldn't do the same for me. I'm done holding on to false friends. I want to see this criminal organization brought to true justice for the myriad of human rights violations that it commits on a daily basis, and I want to encourage others like me to do the same. I know I'm not the only one in this position. The number of silent voices out there with a story similar to mine are many. I understand why some of you might not be able to speak. I was there for a long time. For many, it's simply not an option. But for those of us capable, it's time that we spoke up. I'm not the only one with documented evidence of abuse. I'm a single drop in an ocean of people abused by this destructive cult. Scientology can't take anything from us that they haven't already. If you're in that situation, if you're hearing this, speak out. You don't have to start your own channel. Get your story out there. The obvious abuses have already won the case in the court of public opinion. Just look at what people now know about Scientology. Look at how the paradigm has shifted. Look at what the collective voices, so few in number, have accomplished. Imagine what could be done if all of us who have remained silent spoke up. Human rights violations, cases of credit card and bank fraud, times when you or people you know have been trafficked. These are the things that will make a difference on the scale we all want. Your voice will make a difference. We may never see an end to the cult altogether, but I feel very strongly that we can change how they operate and stop them from continuing to get away with this. To the cult, prepare yourselves. To this day, you are lying to the public and telling them that this order does not exist. Good luck keeping that lie going now. Wow. Wow. There's a lot more that I collected, but I feel like this is such a beautiful stopping point because this writer is basically posting on the Scientology subreddit and begging everybody who hasn't spoken out yet to speak out. That is still so brave. The details that were shared could end up linking this OP to Scientology. Scientology might know who this person is. And OP, if you see this, we have a great community of people happy to jump in and help if there are any retaliatory actions taken. I know you just did your Ask Me Anything like 2 months ago. I can't recall when that larger post we just featured was written, but we are here for you. If you need support, if you want to share more, if you have concerns, I would love to try to help you find resources. You can email me at letfresharin@gmail.com. It's so powerful when people speak out and share their stories because you're not only helping, take down this massive cult or organization, you're also educating people. You're helping other people get out of this cult or other cults. It is so, so valuable to be taking action the way that this brave OP has been taking action. It is not easy to do. So I applaud you and am here for you. So everyone, with all of that being said, thank you so much for tuning into today's video. I have a lot more coming up for you. Please let me know if you like this sort of video. I really want to try to experiment right now with implementing some true crime videos, which I've started to add. They're not doing so well, so maybe I need to work on those a little bit. But I'm also much more passionate about educating people on cults and cult behavior. I do want to do some reacting to cult leader videos. I do want to go live more with you guys. I do want to post more videos like this. I want to interview survivors. So if you have any suggestions or if you want to share what you like the most with me, I would love to hear your input down in the comments below because you guys, this is just the beginning. I feel so inspired and driven right now to educate as many people as I can, to help as many people as I can. So please let me know how I can help do that and how I can get my message and this message and survivors' messages out so we have a clear, deeper understanding of the dangers of these groups. So thank you guys all so much for tuning in. I really, really appreciate you. Stay safe out there, ask questions, and always stay skeptical. I'll see you in my next video very soon. Thanks y'all so much. Bye.